The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
Went to the Greenwood district, known as Black Wall Street. It was home to an affluent African-American community with banks, hotels, theaters, and new homes.
They took my 8-year-old brother too, where they were holding all the black men. And we didn't know because we lived on one side of town and they lived on the other. We thought they were locking up the non-blacks too. But it so happened that it didn't occur that way. What they did was to disarm and lock up all black men. And then they said to the mob, there's nothing out there now but women and children, so you can do whatever you want to do. And that was when the real terrible things started to happen.
It ended when the city was placed under martial law and National Guard troops were deployed. But Black Wall Street was devastated. Survivors never received compensation for what they lost.
It's going down. Welcome to Melanated Politics. What's up, y'all? I'm Eric Clark.
And I'm your boy, David Harper.
As always, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate everyone that's been with us from day one. We go ahead and call in at 323-815-4204. Before we get it cracking, ladies and gents, Mr. Harper. Tell me something good, brother. How's everything been going in your life?
Man, I'm alive. Have my family, have my health. I can't complain. I love being here. Hello, Poetess. Thank you for having us. Morris Media, thank you for having us.
OGP, Poetess.
Yes, and shout out to Sheena,
Could not
as
do
always.
this without her, Sheena.
Yes.
Al Toomer put me on the map.
All right.
Put us on the map. Yes, sir.
We got a lot to talk about.
There's so much to talk about.
Yes, indeed.
So much to talk about. You can't have a sense of, if we cannot have a sense of humor about it, then we might as well just cut the lights off and walk out right now.
Man.
Nevertheless, the essence of color is the melanin, and politics is always defined as war without bloodshed. So let's go ahead and get it cracking. Andrew Brown Jr., rest in peace, in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. Charges were dropped against the terrorist assassins that took that brother out. Talk to me, I'll talk back.
The DA decided not to prosecute, which is not it's not surprising. If I don't know if you guys remember the DA in Ferguson with Mike Brown, he was similar, very combative with the public, very combative with the press on prosecuting and really drawing charges against the police officers. If anybody looked at the video, which we'll talk about a bit more later on, you could see how the militarization of the police and the way they approached and the way they attacked Andrew Brown was just, was sad. But you know what? It's too, like we just saw there with Black Wall Street in Tulsa. It's too common. We go on and on about that. People forget that the Red Summer of 1919, you had Chicago, the Chicago riots. You have the massacre in Elaine, Arkansas, and Knoxville, Tennessee. And then 1921, 100 years from today, the Tulsa, Oklahoma Black Wall Street massacre. 1923, you had the Rosewood massacre. So when you see the assault on black people, regardless, has been going on for generations, for hundreds of years, for centuries. And right now, you can say, sure, this is law enforcement, but it, watered down or not, they shot that man in the head who was fleeing them. And I guess what they're trying to say, what the DA was trying to say, and the DA, district attorney in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, his name is, I believe, is Andrew Wobble, and he basically said in so many words that the police officers had every right to assassinate and kill Andrew Brown because he was fleeing.
Well, according to the census, they had his address. When we saw the video, they have their narrative, which obviously is going to support their decision. And nevertheless, that man was assassinated. They had his address. What is the worst thing that could have happened if they would have allowed him just to drive away. They could have apprehended that young melanated brother later on down the line. They could have apprehended that young man when he returned home or whatever. It's out of control. And something needs to continually be done about it, because we'll never not give credit to those that are out here in the streets marching, those that toss and turn at night over the injustices and the good old US of A. Now, from a political perspective, Mr. Harper, those who've been following Melanated Politics, and even if you just turn on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or any social media or anything of that nature, January 6th was physical and visual evidence of American-born terrorism. Now, we can break it down like an improper fraction. We can peel the scab off like a flesh wound and let it heal when you wake up. I said all that to say this. These snake in the grass Republicans have been in denial of the events that happened on September 6th.
January 6th.
Oh, pardon me. Thank you, my brother.
It's all right.
January 6th. Mm-hmm. So instead of continuing to talk about it, let's go ahead and let our DJ drop that beat, and we'll talk about the Republican denial of January 6th and their shenanigans after the video.
This hearing is called the Capitol Insurrection. Let's be honest with the American people. It was not an insurrection, and we cannot call it that and be truthful. The House floor was never breached, and it was not an insurrection. This is the truth. There was an undisciplined mob. There were some rioters and some who committed acts of vandalism. But let me be clear. There was no insurrection, and to call it an insurrection, in my opinion, is a bold-faced lie.
Was January 6th an insurrection, or could it be more accurately described as a mob of misfits committing disorderly conduct, violent entry, civil disorder, vandalism, unlawful entry, etc.? You know, the crimes that these people were actually charged with.
At 2:07, a mob of Trump supporters breached the steps. I don't know who did a poll that is Trump supporters.
In fact, it was Trump supporters who lost their lives that day, not Trump supporters who were taking the lives of others.
I've repeatedly asked for the Capitol footage from before and during January 6th. Such footage would provide answers, could contain exculpatory evidence regarding the outrageous accusations against members of Congress, and most importantly, exonerate the many Americans who peacefully protested and never set foot in the Capitol.
Democrats have said the events of the Capitol on January 6th were an assault on our democracy. And if that's true, if disorderly conduct in a restricted building is an assault on democracy, then what do we call setting fire to a federal court in Portland, Oregon, where people inside, what do we call that?
19 people died during BLM riots last year. Hundreds and hundreds were injured. 2,000 police officers were injured from BLM riots last year. And yet, we're going to discuss today, as if none of that happened, the events of January the 6th. The hypocrisy of this body is indeed disturbing.
Check this out, y'all. You cannot unhear what you have just heard. You cannot unsee what you have just saw. So do not spit in my face and then run around here and tell Morris Media that it's raining.
It's a whole lot of spitting, a whole lot of raining. I mean, a whole lot of claims.
Melanated politics, y'all.
I mean, basically, when we're talking about, and let's go back to the first.
Are you serious, Mr. Harper?
I'm serious.
Were they serious?
They were serious as a heart attack. There's two things happening. One, you have a group of Republicans that represent a percentage of the country that believes the election was stolen, and that believes everything Donald Trump says. And then you have a section of Republicans, other section of Republicans that are strategically going along because they don't want to be, basically voted out of office.
And 75% of Trump voters still have a.
Yes,
that's the threshold.
That's the threshold.
75% of Republican
75%.
voters support Donald John Trump
70,
in his shenanigans.
and everything that he does.
White power.
Yes, yes. But if you go to what our first video would have showed, when you go back to Tulsa.
Yes, sir.
And you see where white folks were then, and you go to the video of the riots, they're the same.
I'm glad you brought that back up.
There's no difference. There's no difference, except that in Tulsa, it was directed clearly at black people, and Rosewood is directly clearly at black people in the black community. And with the U.S. riots, that happened, and the insurrection that happened January 6th, that same energy was towards, inside, it was towards black folks. It was supposed to,
yes, sir.
The losing of control.
Absolutely.
Losing of control. Hold it real quick. That's a better way to phrase it.
Yes,
because
sir.
Black Wall Street was a representation of
banks,
black people, farms, black folks doing. Same with Rosewood. Same with
schools,
everything,
churches,
everything. And it was a internal. The excuse, of course, was because they said a black man assaulted a white woman.
As young people call it's called hating.
Hating, whatever.
Actually, we didn't get an opportunity to show that entire video for obvious reasons. Nevertheless, we know that a lot of our viewers have intricate and detailed knowledge on Tulsa, on Black Wall Street, on that terrorist act. As we saw that living survivor say, they dropped bombs on our people.
Yes, they did.
Because they were hating, because we had banks, because
they were living, they were thriving.
They were living and thriving. The biggest fear is that we control the economics in our own community. Okay, so a brother supposedly stepped on a white woman's shoe in an elevator. Pain will make you scream or have a physiological, emotional, physical reaction. 19, 20, 21, early 20s, late 18th century.
Yes.
Brothers couldn't do that and get away with it.
Of course not.
So at the end of the day, I'll wrap it up like a burrito. At the end of the day, they charged this brother. Black men in Tulsa, Oklahoma were World War II veteran, not businessman, businessmen, and they were armed, and they had firearms and ammunitions, and they had the training by being enrolled in the U.S. military regarding World War II, although a lot of our brothers were lynched in their own uniform. A lot of brothers were lynched and killed in their own uniforms in this massacre, this terrorist situation. So when the brothers showed up, they had weapons. The white men, the Klan had weapons, the brothers had weapons. A shot goes in the air, the brothers start popping.
Yeah.
The white men start popping. When they called the reinforcements in, if you were a black man, you were incarcerated, took you to jail, they took you in some type of facility to separate you, because in any war, it's the men and the young men and some sisters that go out there and fight. And then after that, that's when they came in there, and as our dear sister said on the screen that we were fortunate enough to just see, burnt her school, burnt the whole towns, burned the banks, burnt everything. Why do we show the anniversary of Tulsa, Oklahoma, which happened in late May, early June, at the end of the 18th century, early 1900s, because we can never forget.
You can't. And the connection with that anger and that angst towards black folks back then is still existing, and you saw that in the January 6th, storming of the Capitol. You saw the Confederate flag being waved.
Yes, sir.
You saw them bring out, basically the hangman. I forget what you call it, the guillotine, not the guillotine, but the hangman.
Yes, sir.
Thing they had out there. It's
whomever,
like, whatever it is, I forget the name of it. Bottom line is that sentiment still exists. That the losing of America in their eyes is a trigger. And we talked about this before, Donald Trump being their Messiah. And so
Jesus.
Hey,
that's who he is to them.
That's who he is. So whether it's, those Republicans you saw on the screen, or Kevin McCarthy, who's the minority leader in the House, Republican,
Snake
the House.
in the grass.
During this time, Kevin McCarthy called Donald Trump and said
he went to Mar-a-Lago.
No, well, this is before Mar-a-Lago.
Before Mar-a-Lago, before January 6th.
No. This was during January 6th. This
Okay.
happened. He called Donald Trump during the riots.
Didn't Donald Trump talk to a few of his boys on the phone?
Well,
on the date of January 6th.
He talked to a few people, but when
correct me if I'm mistaken, Mr. Harper.
No, on January 6th, when the riots were happening, from my understanding, Donald Trump was getting different phone calls, but this particular phone call that I'm focusing on, because he spoke at the rally, his people, Donald Trump people online knew the type of crowds that were coming, because those same people during the riots went to different Trump rallies doing the same thing, similar, causing ruckus, being threatening or whatever. They knew about these folks. Kevin McCarthy called Donald Trump, and this is reported. You can Google it, check it out. CNN reported on it. MSNBC's reported on it. Fox have reported on it, everybody. And anyway, Kevin McCarthy called Donald Trump and said, can you call some people to basically bring this down? Can you do something?
And see what happened.
And see what happened. And so
Donald
Trump said, I guess these rioters or these people are more angry that I lost than you are. And to that response, it was reported, Kevin McCarthy said, who the F do you think you're talking to?
Yes.
Now, after that, Kevin McCarthy, a day later, or I think it was 2 days later, when they went to the House floor, he spoke about Donald Trump is accountable for some things that happened. Now, he wouldn't impeach him, but he said Donald Trump is responsible for some of the things that happened.
Yes, sir.
And so a couple weeks later, or a couple days later, I don't really know how long, that's when he went down to Mar-a-Lago. So he went down after most of those Republicans realized, the same Republicans that you saw on the screen there that talked about
Confederate soldiers.
Well, they talked about, they're Confederate soldiers, yeah, but they talked about it being a band of misfits. They talked about it being a band of misfits. Those same people were hiding. Those same people were locked in. Now, those same people are kissing Donald Trump's ring in denying like this was anything real. So the reason why here on Melanated Politics, we talk about this all the time, because these are the people that are influencing the country. These are the same people that write laws. These are the same people that influence policy. These are the same people are the ones that have more control in this country than they should. If they are going to deny and lie about
January 6th,
they're going to have a problem.
And water will get you wet.
Right. They're going to have a problem. They're going to have the same type of problem when it comes to Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yes.
So this is why we talk about this all the time. This is why we try to, reiterate all these important issues and these important facts, because these people are in control. So voting, being abreast of everything that's going on is important, because if they're going to deny that, they can very well deny 1919.
In the first wave,
mm-hmm.
returning to the Oklahoma City terrorist act in American terrorism on that particular city with our folk, when they dropped the bombs and before the National Guard came in, I want our people to understand this here, because I'm so proud to have so much honor to continue to collaborate and display and be in conjunction with all of our people around the world with real, true American history. I said that to say this. We have always stood up. Ain't no punks around here.
And every time we've stood up, there's been huge resistance. And so the thing is, right now,
When I say that, I'm not just talking about Tulsa.
I know you're not talking
I'm
about
talking
Tulsa.
about Denmark Vesey,
Yes.
Denmark Vesey. I'm talking about Toussaint Louverture.
Right.
I'm talking about Nat Turner.
Nat Turner, all of them.
All the brothers, man.
All the brothers, everybody, and sisters too. Bottom line.
Rest in peace to Sandra Bland.
The bottom line is
Breonna Taylor.
Is that we're in a time where everything is, with social media and the 24-hour news cycle, everything is right in front of you in real time, and facts are undebatable, and you're seeing a denial of facts, and that's where the problem is. And so if we can't continue as a people to ignore it, think it's not a big deal, or not get involved,
And you know what's
because it's real.
Now, we mentioned Al Toomer at the beginning of the show.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And the whole thing about it is, after doing this show for 2+ years, and we've talked about policing, we talked about slave patrols, we talked about black inventors like Garrett Morgan, who invented the traffic light, Benjamin Banneker.
Mm-hmm.
You understand me? You know, with the walkie-talkie, et cetera, et cetera. All the George Washington Carver, all these good brothers, man. And the cool thing about it is, like, our history is extremely important. And there's been a debate about Confederate statues and monuments. And after many hours of self-reflection, you know what I've come to the conclusion? Leave them up. Leave them up. And I watch Fox News. I've been watching Fox News an hour or two every day, last 10, 20, at least the last 50 days, to tell you. Just like they study us.
We got to study them.
Study them.
Got to study them, yeah.
And it's not just Fox News.
Talk radio.
And it's not just Republicans. And it's not just Democrats. And it's not just independents. It's those that are going against the laws of common sense, the laws of the universe, and deny our original place and our original state of existence. But all we need is each other. All we have is each other. All we will continue to do is unite, hold hands, and collaborate. Melanated Politics is not about views, it's about connections. Now, we have a few more snakes in the Republican Party that we would like to talk to them. Oh, I'm on some Kwame Brown stuff today.
Oh, wow. You going to bring up Kwame Brown? Oh, my goodness. I was thinking, woo!
But you know what? I'm not, all these brothers that it didn't end up in prison and didn't end up, living a normal life.
Kwame's bringing the heat.
Kwame, who all them brothers in that circle they talking about, I give love and respect to that whole little circle. I'm not involved in that fight.
Yeah, no.
But what I'm saying is
I remember when he was
that snake in the grass, Matt Gaetz, alleged pedophile, Marjorie Taylor Greene. The reason why I brought up the monuments and the statues is because the people that actually instituted and literally paid for the statues of your Forrest and all these, Forrest Bedford and all these other Confederate so-called Southern heroes, the Daughters of the Confederacy were behind that. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is the new modern face of the Daughters of the Confederacy, So, DJ, if you don't mind, let's drop that track on Marjorie Taylor Greene, on Matt Gaetz, and all these Republicans that are in denial.
Hosted by two firebrand House Republicans, one kicked off her committees for controversial statements, the other facing allegations of sexual misconduct, which he denies. But here, celebrated on the rollout of their America First Trump-focused tour.
This is our first stop, but there will be many more, and America's greatest president and the undisputed leader of the Republican Party, Donald J. Trump, might join us on a few.
For those who reject Trump, Representative Anthony Gonzalez voted for impeachment, censured by the Ohio GOP. Senator Mitt Romney, a Trump critic, booed by Utah Republicans. Representative Liz Cheney insisting on a January 6th commission, on the verge of losing her leadership role. The rift creating a rupture in the party, one that Cheney and allies are determined to repair.
If we're going to be successful in the future as Republicans, we have to have everybody. I think a lot of Liz Cheney.
But House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy is choosing a different path, betting fealty to Trump is the road to a House majority and perhaps a promotion to Speaker.
All of the talk right now is about the divisions inside the Republican Party and about the future of the Republican Party.
Cheney's likely replacement, New York Representative Elise Stefanik, pressed to prove her Trump bona fides, blanketing conservative airwaves.
We have to work with President Trump to win back the majority, and we're going to. And that's what the members of Congress want, who are Republicans.
As we proceed to rock the mic right.
Listen, for those of you who don't know who Matt Gaetz, I'm going to start with Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz is under investigation for paying for sex with a minor, with an underage young girl, a girl, teenager.
Not a woman, a girl.
Not a woman. I believe she was
17.
17.
Yes.
17. I don't know if she just turned 17. I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
She's underage.
She's underage.
And he's a Trump supporter.
And the reason why I say I don't know if she just turned 17 because she very well could have been younger. You won't know how many times that he could have been with her. But that I can't say snake in the grass. He's
snake in the grass.
Nah, snake in the grass.
Snake in the river. Snake in the stream.
Matt Gaetz was applauded.
Sea snake.
I don't think sea snake is
sea snake.
Zach Gaetz was applauded.
Matt Gaetz is a clown.
He was applauded. And a pedophile is one of the worst type of human beings you can be. And he was applauded. They didn't have a problem with it. For those of you who don't know who Marjorie Taylor Greene is.
What do you think about her, the video that just came out?
Of her going to AOC's door or going to her office?
Yes. Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez.
Alexandra
Cortez.
Shout out to the Bronx. I think she's Bronx girl. But
that's
anyway,
how they try to say it on Fox News. Cortez.
I know, yeah, they need to stop. But anyway, Marjorie Taylor Greene, for those of you who don't know, she is a woman who flirts with white
flirts, or she's in love with.
She coincides with.
Dude, she in the jacuzzi with the Klan, bro.
She's in the jacuzzi with the Klan. She's in the hot tub time machine.
She's in the massage parlor with the Confederate Army.
She's all that. But bottom line, the reason why we're making all these points is because they're lawmakers. These are the folks that are lawmakers, and these are the folks that are cheering. And if you don't think that's a problem, and you don't think because we both know black folks that are not into politics, we know black folks that think like none of this stuff matters. If you don't understand history on how things would be if we didn't have a Voting Rights Act or a Civil Rights Act, if you don't know how history was during that period of time when it was okay, like it's getting close to right now. Basically, is when Trump got into office. I'm sure all of you remember, you had more white folks, just regular citizens, calling saying, "Hey, they're barbecuing outside. Hey, they're selling water. Hey, don't you go anywhere. I'm calling the police. This, that, and the third. You had all that. That it's not
racial
new.
animus.
That's not new. That happened back in the day. That happened during Jim Crow and then some. That happened during the Civil Rights era.
Pre-Civil War, post-Civil War.
Pre-Civil War, post-Civil War. And the fact that it's coming out now even stronger shows you how we have to be even more diligent and more and stronger and more vigorous on being involved in understanding where we are as a people. Because the Matt Gaetz and the Marjorie Taylor Greene that's supporting a Donald Trump who supports the Proud Boys, who is a white supremacist group, or the Oath Keepers, who are a white supremacist group. Bottom line, those type of folks will be in power. So for everybody who thinks that, hey, man, it doesn't matter, hey, they're all white supremacists. Nah, you haven't really seen it. Unless you were around in 1919, unless you were around during the beginning of...
Or unless you can put yourself in those people's shoes and jump outside of your selfish body.
If you can't do any of those things, if you really think none of this matters, just watch. That's all I'm going to say. Just watch, because it's real. And we're going to show more videos, because this is not just about denying a riot or insurrection that happened on January 6th or supporting a white supremacist president in Donald Trump. This is about, it goes to voting. It goes to allowing police to kill brothers and sisters, or not even police. Let's go for a second. The regular citizen to stand their ground.
Ahmaud Arbery,
who's
in Georgia. That was jogging.
Right. So this is
and peace to the brothers. Peace to the brothers that showed up and exercised their Second Amendment rights with respect to the United States. I mean the United States Constitution. Because there were brothers and sisters who showed up after Ahmaud Arbery was jogging and was assassinated in Georgia. And let us all continue to pay attention to that, because right now as we speak, those Klansmen's trial on the forefront.
Yes.
They are now upon us. And going back to what you said, I have a lot of, we circle in so many crowds, okay? Millionaires, street brothers and sisters, the uneducated, the educated, the religious, the atheist, the negative, the positive, the optimistic, the pessimistic. It doesn't matter. We're all the same. And what we hear quite often is that voting does not matter. Them white folk just threw Obama in the White House. He was light-skinned. Yeah. It doesn't matter if I vote, because you know what? Them white folk gonna put in there whoever they want to anyway. My whole thing is this: whether that is true or not, if you do not have the physical, visual, forensic, scientific evidence to back up what comes out your little raggedy, happy Halloween, jack-o'-lantern mouth, we're not trying to hear it. It's that simple. Now, our dear sister, who does the Reid report, Joy Reid, interviewed one of the most powerful voices in America with respect to voting rights, voter suppression in the South and all over the good old US of A. Stacey Abrams was recently on the Reid report, and she talked about a lot of things that David and I were just discussing along with our audience. Check it out. DJ,
by one of the
that
women
beat.
leading the fight against such laws, Stacey Abrams, the founder of Fair Fight. And, you know, Stacey, it is breathtaking to see just the breadth and the number of laws and ways that Republicans are throwing bricks in front of voters. And I wonder if, when you look at it, as somebody who's been a politician, who's been an elected official, is this more straight up just sort of racist attempts to reconfigure the electorate? Or is it more GOTV? Because part of me thinks that at least some of it is GOTV, an attempt to get their voters to vote at all because their voters no longer believe in the system because they don't always get their way.
I actually think it's more of an existential panic and cowardice and laziness. What they realized in the last election was that a confluence of possibilities came into being. Communities of color that had largely not fully recognized their power became part of the electorate. Young people who had largely kept themselves at a more diminished capacity participated in elections. And because of COVID, more Americans, especially those Americans who were the most vulnerable and disadvantaged, understood that there were alternatives for participating in elections, and they did so. And rather than confront and grapple with what it means to have a more engaged and expanded electorate, they are instead working as hard as they can to not only throw up those bricks, but also to your point, to use this GOTV strategy to create a new boogeyman for their own people, for their constituents. But at the same time, they're expressing their hostility towards those communities that changed the outcome in 2020 and 2021, and those are largely communities of color. And so racial animus is absolutely a part of it. But I think overall, it's an existential crisis and an existential panic that is leading to the tactic that has worked well for so many other parties, and that is voter suppression.
You know.
Okay. What you witnessed there were, first of all, again, shout out to Joy Reid and Stacey Abrams, the power of melanated people, men or women, coming together and really talking to the heart of the issue and the meat of the issues. Because the way they're covering it, they're not covering it just as objective reporters. They cover it as black women that understand the history of this country. Stacey Abrams, just really quick, when she had issues in her governor's race, which was in 2018, I believe. I think it was 2018. It was 2016, 2017. I forget. I have the date a bit off, but when
But the bottom line is,
she saw the games that are being played by the state of Georgia and not having the votes,
yes,
or not counting the votes, purging votes, and basically not having the opportunity for citizens of Georgia, mainly black folks, to exercise their franchise. What she did, she didn't go home pouting. What she did was she got busy. She went to war. Like, would you say, war without bloodshed? She understands.
That's politics.
That's politics, and she understood the war. So what she did was register a lot of people and really went to the electorate to where they are in the state of Georgia. And with that, she made history with Warnock and Ossoff being the first Democratic senators out of Georgia.
And that's why Stacey Abrams is the most feared black, melanated human being in America. Stacey Abrams, her.
She was.
Period.
If she didn't do what she did, you wouldn't
She's
see.
the most feared, politically
speaking.
Politics meaning war without bloodshed.
Exactly, because she's right now, even more so on just through the public and through the citizens.
Yeah.
She is the reason why they are putting out more voting laws, period.
And I say that with respect to her results. I don't say that as I wrote down a list of dark-skinned politicians and put her name in a hat, shook it around. Stacey Abrams, no, results. She's feared.
She is feared.
Yes, sir.
And really quick, going back to, I want to piggyback on something that you said as far as people saying, oh, they just let Obama win or they let Joe Biden in.
Because he's light-skinned.
Because he's light-skinned or because he's biracial, he's half-white, whatever. People, you can make that argument for why a lot of folks voted for him that aren't black, because he's one of the safest black men. He wanted him, and I always joke about this, him and Will Smith probably two.
And they said if he looked like Wesley Snipes, he would never be
If he was Wesley Snipes, not. If he was, maybe he was Denzel, probably not. But bottom line is that is that you can argue that that's why people voted for him, why some people voted for him, but you can't argue that he had to earn his way in. The reason why there was so much bloodshed and so much fighting and so much strife in this country during the Civil War in the Civil Rights era in the 60s
and Reconstruction
is because it was us having a seat at the table, a real legitimate seat at the table in this country.
Yes.
That we were brought into in bondage. Now it's not about us having a seat at the table. The reason why it's so much angst is because we not only have a voice, we're going to have pull at the table.
Yes.
And that was never written in the Constitution.
Yes.
But we're making it happen.
Now, what's crazy about that is, what is the most influential Republican GOP grand old party think tank in America? They are called the Heritage Foundation, and the Heritage Foundation has historically, strategically come up with recipes that enhance voter suppression. And just recently, one of the representatives of voter suppression was caught with her hand in the cookie jar. Let's check this out, y'all.
State houses across the nation.
Iowa was the first state that we got to work in, and we did it quickly and we did it quietly. Honestly, nobody noticed. Then we turned to Georgia. Woohoo! I was able to sit down with Governor Kemp 3 days before he signed the election package in Georgia, and I had one message for him. Do not wait to sign that bill. If you wait even an hour, you will look weak. It's the same message we're giving Governor Ducey here in Arizona, the governor of Texas, Governor DeSantis in Florida as well. We're working with these state legislators to make sure they have all of the information they need to draft the bills. In some cases, we actually draft them for them, or we have a sentinel on our behalf give them the model legislation. So it has that grassroots, from the bottom up type of vibe. And we are gonna take the fierce fire that is in every single one of our bellies to right the wrongs of November.
If we are lying, we are flying, and our feet have not left the ground.
You just heard what she said, to right the wrongs that happened in November.
Those were the facts. They told on themselves. What did Maya Angelou, rest in peace, rest in power, say? If a person tells you who they are, believe them the fourth time,
believe them the first time,
the third, the 15th, the 7th, the first time. Kick some lyrics for the audience, Mr. Harper.
What we try to do here, and I'm just got to go back to this. What we try to do on this show, on this platform, is spit facts. Spit facts. Just how Nas did in Illmatic.
Talk.
Just how Lauryn Hill did in Miseducation.
Holla. It's like De La Soul did it, huh?
Just like De La Soul did it.
Ponds in my lawn. Potholes in my lawn.
Potholes in my lawn. Because when you heard that music, you knew it was real. You knew it was.
And shout out to the OG West Coast hip hop also.
Also, always. When the Game came out with his first album, when NWA came out, when the DOC came out, when Cube came out, when all of them came out and spoke about it, it was spitting facts.
Yes.
These weren't necessarily movies. It was commentary on what's going on. So when we bring the videos, we're trying to not just tell you, we're trying to show you what's really going on so we don't have to explain it. You saw what she said. The Heritage Foundation is a conservative think tank that's been around for several years to influence policy. Conservative.
With cash money.
Endless pockets.
And stocks and bonds.
Endless.
And Wall Street representation.
Wall Street representation, Main Street representation, backyard representation.
The banks. The oil companies, et cetera,
What
et
she
cetera.
said was, we went in and tried to change the law and no one noticed. They know.
Yes.
They know right now. They see the paradigm shift. They see the paradigm shift, and the paradigm shift is not just a federal thing. It's a local state issues. It's happening in Ohio. It's happening in Arizona. I know it's happening in Michigan. Shout out to my family in Detroit. My father-in-law, Greg Frazier, who can talk about this all day.
What up, G?
This goes on and on.
What up, G?
All the time.
Yeah.
So bottom line
sir.
is that this assault is a constant.
Yeah.
And if you're not paying attention,
It'll pass right by you.
it's going to pass through you, not by you. You're going to be laid out and don't know what happens. And people turn off the TV, which I understand. People turn off the TV and like, look, I can't handle this no more. I can't handle it no more. Okay, I get it. You can't handle it no more. But you know what? Right now, as bad as it is, it's better to go through it now because it was a lot harder in the 60s. Our people went through it so much worse in the 60s. But the difference now, if a woman like Marjorie Taylor Greene or that woman that we just saw on the Heritage Foundation or
Yes.
Matt Gaetz or whomever, Donald Trump, gets a hold of real legit hold. They already got a hold of the Supreme Court. They got them lined up real quick. They got a hold of the
Yes.
Supreme Court. If they really get a hold on policy all the way, if they get a real hold on policy all the way, they're not only going to turn back the clock, they're going to turn it and going to keep it stuck there so it won't turn again. And this is not hyperbole. Honest to God, it's not hyperbole, because the reason why I say this, the reason why I feel this in my bones, is because the fear of losing power, even if you don't have real power, the assumption of power.
This, yeah.
That feeling
Yes.
is beyond scary
Incomprehensible.
and incomprehensible. They don't want to what happened in South Africa to happen in the United States.
Well, we can't say it won't because, see, they had reconciliation.
No. They don't want that. That's the whole point.
That's another 15 show.
That's another show.
Reconciliation.
Reconciliate. No.
That's a whole nother.
No.
That's 15 more shows.
That is whenever this quick you can say, hey, January 6th was an attack, and this quick can say they were just a bunch of misfits. That's not about reconciliation.
But you understand, but the whole thing about it is,
You don't want that.
Wars are only fought for two specific reasons. Number one, population control. Number two, to make some bread.
Make some money.
To cash in some almighty dollars. See, when we look at the United States defense budget, we look at the United States military industrial complex as a whole, and they're saying they spend more on the military and bombs and guns and tanks and aircraft and weaponry and everything that facilitates all these things than the top next 5 to 10 combined. What does that say to someone with a PhD in common sense like everyone who's watching? What that tells us is this here, man. These particular individuals cannot function in a world, in a society, if they do not have the numbers and dominate the population, the populace. I'm gonna say it in East Side Compton street terms. If these people are not the deepest, if they're not the deepest in the club, there's no singing and dancing, huh? There's no bottle service.
No.
I can't get me a shot. Huh?
No.
So my point is this here, man. America is in trouble because the real has been resurrected. And the melanated forces that has been established millions of years ago have now unified and has revealed themselves by way of things like this. You recall we were talking about our dear brother in Georgia.
Yes.
Let's say his name. Ahmaud Arbery.
Ahmaud Arbery.
North Carolina.
Andrew Brown.
Andrew Brown Jr.
Andrew Brown Jr.
Man. The justice system in America is as fake as a $5 wig.
That's pretty fake.
They just allowed these terrorists to kill this brother when he was driving away. We talked about that at the beginning of the show. Yes, he had a warrant. Yes, he wasn't perhaps allegedly an outstanding citizen of the so-called law enacted to take the country away from Native Americans. Stop it. They gunned this brother down. And before we go there, brother, if you don't mind, let's show this video and talk about all of this. Our brother rests in power on the other side of the video. We'll get off into it after that.
Again, we warn you, the video is difficult.
Tonight, no charges will be filed against the North Carolina deputies who shot and killed Andrew Brown Jr. while serving a search warrant last month.
After reviewing the investigation conducted by the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, Mr. Brown's death, while tragic, was justified.
The Pasquotank County District Attorney playing some parts of the long-awaited body camera footage showing how quickly the incident occurred. It would all be over in just 44 seconds. On the morning of April 21st, deputies packed into the back of a pickup truck arrive at Brown's home shouting commands.
Let me see your hands! Get your hands up! Get your hands up!
Brown sitting behind the steering wheel of his car, one deputy gripping the door handle when Brown puts the car in reverse. The DA saying that's the deputy's arm making contact with the hood of the car. When the car comes to a stop, Brown is boxed in, his house behind him, deputies surrounding the front. He ignores commands, putting the car in drive. The DA said hitting that same deputy again, that's when they opened fire. Brown driving through an open lot as officers continue shooting. When the deputies catch up, Brown had crashed into a tree. They call for help. Brown's death certificate stating he died within minutes of a penetrating gunshot wound of the head. The DA concluding his investigation today, saying that while he believes Brown was attempting to flee the scene, he used his car as a deadly weapon and that the deputy's use of force was necessary.
When you employ a car in a manner that puts officers' lives in danger, that is a threat. And I don't care what direction you're going.
It's been nearly a month now since Brown's death sparked days of peaceful protest and demands for transparency.
No justice! No peace!
Brown's family.
We all know we can't say what we really want to say, but I will say this. Seriously, are you kidding me?
Two things that is really important to take away from this and really dissect it because one, the police came to, when they are dressed in military gear like that, they're not there to arrest anybody. They're there to impose their strength in their will. That's a straight up intimidation factor.
A lynching.
Now, I don't know his total rap sheet. I know he was a criminal. I know he had a warrant out, whatever it may be. But we just showed you a video.
He had a warrant for drugs.
Had a warrant for drugs. He had a warrant for drugs. And here's the thing that's really crazy. And this goes to priorities. He had a warrant for drugs.
Yes.
And he basically had military-style police.
To my understanding.
Military-style police come to his house.
Yes.
We showed you a video of a pedophile or alleged pedophile.
Matt Gaetz.
Getting a standing ovation. White guy, white man.
Republican.
Bottom line, the thought process when it comes to a black man, whether he's walking down the street and has a iced tea in his pocket, a la Trayvon Martin, or
Tamir Rice, 12 years old. Fidel Castro.
Calando Castillo. Whatever it may be,
Michael Brown.
You have to come for battle.
Yes.
That's the way it's going to be. That's number one. Number two, the reaction to the video, and this is where we really have to pay attention, because I've heard people say it was justifiable. Look at the video and say it's justifiable. Like, hey, he shouldn't have drove off. Now here's the thing. Here's the thing that's crazy. So basically, they're saying that a guy it was justifiable for them to kill him, even though he wasn't trying to hit him.
If you weren't from the Klan, you would be punished. So his death is a punishment.
So that's
for defying the Klan's authority, running off.
And that is what, as melanated people, as black people,
yes, sir,
you have to really, really pay attention to. Because back in the day before we had our rights to vote, back in the day when, that whole being separated by the tracks was extremely real. Not saying it's not
sundown
real now.
towns.
Sundown towns.
Yes.
You had white folks that would serve black customers, not serve them, but basically black customers would come in and
go to the back door and get your food.
Go back door, get your food, or you can come to the store and purchase your candy, whatever it may be.
Yes.
And they'll be friendly to the black folks.
Yes.
But those same white folks would not hesitate to vote for the racist cops and sheriff that will have the freedom to lynch.
Now
those same black folks.
We talk about laws. We talk about unjust laws. Because when we say justice, justice means just us.
Basically.
And there's been, across the spectrum, a consensus that America, bottom line, is tripping. Especially after visual of that brother, rest in power, George Floyd. The visual's out there. The denial is out there. The repercussions of fighting against that is out there. The denial of white supremacy as the foundation of the Constitution, 2/3 of a man, et cetera, is out there. Okay? The 1916 Project rejection is out there. The America First, although it was rejection, it was out there. Mitch McConnell's latest. Mitch McConnell and what's the minority speaker name again?
Oh, Kevin McCarthy.
Kevin McCarthy, their latest rejection regarding a commission.
Regarding a commission, yeah.
On January 6th is out there. What does that mean?
It's legit. It's
the Klan shall rise again, politically speaking. And literally speaking, politics is defined as war without bloodshed. Who enforces these unjust laws? Law enforcement. As we always say around this time, y'all, our tongue is our gun and our wisdom is our ammunition.
Amen.
It has been such an honor to sit side by side with my dear brother.
Thank you, sir.
Have a whole lot of fun, put out a whole lot of information. and get a whole lot of leadership and direction from those who taught us how to sit here and make some connections on this microphone. And before we wrap it up like a burrito, talk to me. I'll talk back, Mr. Harper.
Man, I just want to thank you for being on this show. I want to thank POTUS and Sheena, for just this platform. It's a lot going on. We want to keep it going. And, peace and blessings to everybody. Be safe out there because, it's a lot going on.
Tell them where you from, bro.
Man, I'm from Fort Washington, Maryland. I'm from that DMV, PG County. Shout out to my family back east.
Man, I'm from East Side Compton, California. Thank you so much for tuning in, ladies and gents. Peace. We're out.